Welcome to the Spirit of a Badass, where we celebrate stories of courage, hope, and resiliency. I'm your host, Alecia Jacobson. Hello, and welcome to all the badasses hanging out with us today. I am so glad you are here. You know those moments where you have this expansiveness? Usually it happens in the mountains or in the ocean where your life just feels so small, but yet everything feels big and neat. And that happened today as I was reflecting on talking with my guest today, Katie, just thinking over the last 12 years, that's how long I've known her, thinking all of life that has happened and how small I am in this world, but yet how big, thinking of all the things that Katie has accomplished. So I just had this moment of groundedness and really being in the present, and it was really neat. So I'm just really happy today. It's been a really good day. So Katie, I'm excited to have her. I met her in a Craigslist ad. And that is just fun to say. Like I was saying, I'm like, yeah, like I put a Craigslist ad out and Katie responded to the Craigslist ad. This was back when I just started training. The gym I worked for, we had to make these Craigslist ads to get people in because there was social media, but it wasn't what it is today. And so I put out an ad for this bridal boot camp that I had because way back then I was slightly obsessed with weddings. I'd already been married for a long time, but I used to go to like the wedding shows that were in town, me and my best friend, and like eat the cake and absorb the energy because the women were just so happy and excited. And so we would so dumb. We would go and make up these fake personas because people want you to like buy their stuff. So each year we would have different stories between the two of us of why our spouses, our marital like situations. And we would just elaborate on these stories at every booth we went to. And then this bridal boot camp was born where I put out this Craigslist ad to work with people who were going to be in weddings. And Katie answered that ad. I believe it was her sister who was getting married. And so she answered that ad. Katie is going to give us an overview of her journey to finding herself and the way her life set her up for opening doors that she decided each time to walk through that brought her to the beautiful place where she is today. Katie is an insurance agency owner, wife and mom to 3 kids and 3 dogs. Oh, I'm so happy to have you here. And I know you're going to kind of elaborate on this Craigslist ad potentially, but when I was thinking about that, it totally cracked me up that we met in an ad. It's so just funny.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here, Alecia. That's definitely aging us both because I don't think people are meeting on Craigslist anymore. I was thinking about that and I was like, was it a Facebook ad or what? I couldn't remember or the newspaper or where I had found you, but I knew it was somewhere.
Yeah, it was some ad, but yeah, if anybody's meeting there, it's probably shady AF. So we were before it was all shady.
Yeah, right?
So Katie, tell us what is currently lighting a fire inside of you?
Currently, I am really, really excited because my business, I'm a little over 3 years into owning my business. I'm finally at a place where I feel like I can step back from the business a little bit. I'm so passionate about what I do and I love it. But the reason I own my own business is because I wanted more flexibility and to be there more for my kids. And just this morning, I blocked off every Friday from now until September so that my team knows I will not be here. And that scares the heck out of me to commit to being off every Friday, but they're really dang good at their jobs. I need to let them do them and I need to step away and spend that time with my family. So I think that's the most exciting is being able to take that next step and give myself a little more freedom.
Congrats to you.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's something a lot of when people start their own business, they have this, I want more freedom, I want flexibility, and then they get into it and they're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I got freedom and flexibility. However, you work way more than a traditional 40-hour a week job.
Oh yeah, and it's all consuming. I mean, you're thinking about it 24/7. Everything is about the business. There's no off time unless you're really, really focused on making that happen.
Good for you. It takes a lot of intentional work and kind of getting to that space in your business where you have that flexibility, you have that trust and sort of taking that baton, letting people a little bit pry it out of your hand a little bit because it's so scary, but good for you.
Hey.
All right. So your story, when I reached out to you and I said, hey, I would love to interview you. And you said, what would you like me to talk about? And I'm like, whatever you're excited about. And then you gave me 4-minute long voice messages. That one, I started crying because I had no idea. And kind of like reliving your journey again, this is just so effing cool. And it just makes me like so proud to know you and to be like a little smidge of your story and to just be watching you from afar. So kind of take us through your story.
All right. So I guess I'll start from the beginning, and kind of what the general theme is here is that I had a very, very, very messy start to adulthood. My early 20s were a disaster, and I will go through that. And then there was a very pivotal point where I met you, and I'll get to the story that changed my life and got me to where I am today. So I got married at 19 years old. I was not pregnant. I was just stupid. I I had met my first husband only 15 months before, and I think that I always just really wanted to be a wife and mom. I don't know why at 19, and now that I'm a parent, my oldest child is now 17. I'm like, who allowed me to get married at 19? That was insane. Why did the authorities let that happen? But they did. And I was legally an adult. So I got married at 19, had my first baby at 21. That marriage was very, very rough. I do have to say that I have nothing but huge amount of respect for my ex-husband. He and I have done a really good job co-parenting our two girls who are now 17 and 15. So first baby at 21, I got pregnant, found out I was pregnant just right after our oldest daughter turned 1 with our second daughter. I asked him for a divorce when I was 6 months pregnant with that second baby. So I was scared as heck. And he ended up moving out, and there I was with a 1-year-old and pregnant, which was not an easy thing to do. But, I had a good job. I had a lot of really good support with my family. So I thought, we're going to make this work. And it was the right thing. Divorce was the right thing for both of us. So I had baby number 2 at 22 years old. Divorce was final shortly after that. With the divorce, we ended up, we were not in a good financial place. This was also, early 2000s. I bought a house when I was 21. I had no business buying a house in 2006, like many people. And then, the crash happened, and I shouldn't have had a loan, and that's why we couldn't afford it. So the house was foreclosed on. We had 2 vehicles that ended up being repoed because of the financial issues that we were in because of the divorce. I went through some really, really hard times too in my early 20s with postpartum depression. And I didn't really realize it was postpartum depression. I think the conversations around that were just starting to happen. It's not like it is now. And I remember my mom always telling me like, oh yeah, I had the baby blues too. They called it the baby blues. And I think people were just starting to talk about that more, but not how they are now. I actually ended up when my younger daughter was about 6 months old. So of course, here I am, 22 years old, had just gone through a very traumatic divorce. I had these 2 little babies and had really severe postpartum depression. And at the urging of my mother, thank goodness it wasn't like a dangerous situation, but my mom really urged me to get some help. So I went and checked myself in for an inpatient mental health hospitalization, which was completely life-changing. I mean, I still had some rough times after that, but it really allowed me to get on the right medication and to really be able to manage it better. And looking back at it now, I don't even know how I came through all of that. That was a lot for a very young person, but I got through all of that. After the mental health hospitalization, I realigned some of my goals. I left the job that I was at. I had a job at a cheese factory that I was making really good money, but it was not what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. It was a great job. It was a union job, but the hours were crazy. Usually took people like 20 years or so to get onto first shift. So I knew I'd be working these crazy hours. We had to work 3 weekends a month, and it just wasn't conducive to being a mom. So I went to go work back in something that I worked in previously, was working with people with developmental disabilities. I had a huge passion for that. I absolutely loved it. So I went back and I thought this will be a better fit for the kids and I. At that time, I was working like 2 jobs, just trying to make ends meet in that world. So anyway, I was back working with people with disabilities. I had a gentleman that I had worked for him previously and then started working for him again, someone I really respected and looked up to. And I was working at one of his group homes, and he purchased the home next door to the group home so that the girls and I could rent it from him. And so I could be close there to work and everything. And it was great. Things were going really, really good. I was starting to get my mojo back from the divorce and just had started seeing someone new. And I was really excited. And then my boss and landlord, very unexpectedly, as it always is, committed suicide. So I was left with no house and no job, which, I mean, there was a lot of wonderful people in the community that, helped me through that. And we weren't like on the streets or anything like that, but it was really not a great situation. That was probably the first time too that I had lost someone that I was close to, I mean, it was a person I saw every single day. So that was hard to process just in that, but then also like, okay, what do I do now since I don't have a house or a job? At that point, my ex-husband and I made the decision together. We were sharing custody at that time. He had been wanting to move to the Madison area for a while. We were about an hour outside of Madison. So we made the decision to move to Madison together separately in our own houses. So we did that. That was probably all of the messiness of my 20s. I also attempted to go to college 4 times and dropped out 4 times. And then, so once we moved to Madison, I had gotten into this new relationship and I thought I was going to marry that person. We actually were engaged and things were going great. And then one day he just came home, this person who was living with me and my 2 little girls. And I thought everything was great. I had the dress bought, the hall booked, everything was set to go for this wedding. And he came home one day and he's like, I'm not happy. I'm moving out. Like, I don't want to do this. And so he left. And at that time, we also, I wasn't making a lot of money and neither was he. We didn't have much. We had a little apartment, but we had, at the time, 3 vehicles. No, we had 3 vehicles, 3 very old, horrible vehicles. One of them was a minivan that was in his name and the loan was in his name. And my credit was shot from the foreclosure and filing bankruptcy after my divorce. So he got to keep that van with the loan because I couldn't afford to buy him out of the loan. And then we also had another car that he had inherited from his grandmother who passed away. I tried to get him to sell me that, and my parents offered to help with lending me some money to do that, but he would not do that because he had an emotional attachment to the car. And the third vehicle we had was a truck that my grandfather had given me that was literally, it was just this itty bitty truck with just 2 seats in the front. Of course, I had 2 car seats because my girls were both they weren't even in school yet. They were really little. So I had this truck that I couldn't even fit my 2 girls into. And about 2 weeks later, the truck started making noise. So I took it in and the brakes were bad, but it was so rusted. They couldn't even attach like new brakes. So the truck had to go. So I didn't have a vehicle. I'm very, very fortunate that I have amazing parents who helped me through that and helped me. They lent me $500 to get a car. So I was okay there. But during that time, I was struggling so bad. And just all the things leading up to this. And then I'm in another failed relationship, a marriage that I thought was going to happen, wasn't going to happen. I was devastated. And I had this friend, shout out to Valerie, who I used to work with when I worked at the cheese factory a couple of years before. And Valerie was about 20 years older than me. She had kids that were my age. And she was kind of this like really cool big sister, like mom figure in my life that I worked with at that time. And it was always kind of a mentor to me and took a lot of time to be kind to me. So what Valerie did when she found out about the breakup is she sent me a really sweet care package that completely changed my life. I don't even remember everything else that was in it. I'm like getting chills just thinking about it. She just sent me like goofy stickers and some nice notes and stuff. But one of the things she sent me was $100. And she said, what I want you to do with this $100 is I want you to do something for yourself, like go buy silk sheets or do something really special for yourself. And I didn't want silk sheets because I thought I would fall off the bed. So my sister had just gotten engaged and I was really excited for her wedding. And also during that time, because of all the things going on, I was in therapy and I had a therapist who I don't even remember her name. And she wasn't even actually like a real therapist. Like she was just a student therapist. So I was like getting a heck of a deal going to this therapist. And she told me, look, you need to join a workout class, but you can't just like go to a gym and walk on the treadmill. You need to go to a class where people know you, where they expect you to be there and they're going to notice if you're not there. So I said, okay. So I had this $100 very, very kind and generous gift to Valerie because I had never, I mean, up until that point, I didn't have $100 to spend on myself. I was barely making ends meet. I mean, I was on daycare assistance, food stamps. We had state medical insurance. Like I didn't have anything. I was barely making ends meet, and my parents were helping me, and it was not a good financial time. I took that $100 and I apparently went on Craigslist and found you. Because it was 2000, was it 2011 or 12? It was something like,
I thought it was 11 because I think our stories are so similar. There's
yes,
so many things that are so similar, and I can't remember if I was going through my divorce or
you were right before you went through your divorce because you started going through your divorce right as I met my husband, which was shortly after I met you.
okay. Okay. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's probably 2011 then because that was when it all happened.
Yeah. So it was 2011. So I found you on Craigslist and you were doing your bridal boot camp. And I was like, oh, this must be this workout class thing I've heard about. So I found you, and like, just to tell you like how this is so embarrassing. I don't think I've ever told you this either. I had never been like to a real gym before because I grew up like in the country. I had lived in the country. We had just moved to Madison. I don't even think it was a year prior. We hadn't been in the Madison area for very long. The only gym I had ever been exposed to in my entire life was in the small town I lived in, and it was like inside of a community college. And they had clipboards that when you went there, you had to sign up your name for the time you wanted to use the treadmill because there was 2 treadmills for an entire town of 5,000 people. So I remember the first time I ever went, before I went to your class, I went to that gym to do a tour I had to do before I could get into your class or something. And they're showing me around. And I'm like, okay, this is great. I'm like, so where are the clipboards for the treadmill? And they looked at me like I was crazy. And then I knew that I should just stay quiet until I learned how to behave in a gym.
Oh my God, I love you until I learned how to behave in a gym.
Yeah. So I had nothing to do with fitness. I didn't know what I was doing. I've always struggled with my weight, and and I was like, you know what, I'm going to try this and see what it's about. And I met you, and that class completely changed my life. Not that day, not that week, not that year, but I think what I learned from that class, from meeting you and a lot of the other ladies in that class, is I developed this love of fitness that turned into so many other different things and led me directly to the career that I'm in now, which has been so life-changing for me that I can't even believe that that was my life previously.
It's wild, isn't
Yes.
it? When you talk about your cars, when I got divorced, I didn't have a car. And my parents also, the support I had of my family it was so critical. And I remember I had this red Chevy 2-door Blazer, and like the doors would creak. And it was, looking back on that, I see them now and I'm like, went through some shit.
Yeah.
And looking back on the last 12 years, all of life that has happened, it's like, it's incredible.
It's crazy. Yeah, I was just telling my husband the other day too. I said, I remember when we first met, we wanted to buy a house and we would talk about it. And I remember going to see a lender and they're like, you'll need like $10,000 down. And I was like, who on the planet would ever even have that much money? Like, there is no way that anyone can ever come up with that. What's wrong with you? I couldn't even fathom, getting to a point where I would have $10,000 to just put down on a house. I didn't think that was possible.
And it is possible. And you recently just bought a house,
Yeah,
right?
2 years ago.
Oh, 2 years. Oh, see, like
Time goes too fast.
And tell us a little bit about your fitness journey, because I met you through fitness, but you took it from there and you went running, literally full speed ahead. So tell us a little bit about what you did with fitness.
Okay. So I met you. I did your bridal boot camp. I maybe did a couple other classes with you. I don't remember. I did some other classes. I remember when I first met you, I couldn't run a 10-minute mile. I don't know if you remember that. I remember the first time I ran a 10-minute mile with you standing next to the treadmill the whole time, and I cried and I was so excited. And it ended up being something that I really fell in love with. I will always say that I have never been a competitor. I'm a very enthusiastic participant. I'm not I'm not there to win any races, but from you, like I got into running and, I started doing 5Ks and 10Ks and half marathons. I've probably to this point, probably done a couple dozen half marathons. I've done a few ultra marathons, some marathons, and just really, really found this love of fitness, even though, I'm still struggling with my weight and still learning that, but I just really found this solid love of fitness that led me to so many great things. Part of that led me to go work for an organization that was really a great fit for me at the time, and it was so fun. It was just like a nonprofit group started by an Instagram influencer in the early days of Instagram, but it was called No Excuse Mom. And the whole thing was you started like a free workout class in the community to like bring moms together. And it's such a hard time when you have little kids and you really need that community of friends for support. So I started a local chapter in Madison for No Excuse Mom. And what I really learned doing that was like networking skills that I would later use in my business life, but I didn't realize that's what it was at the time. But I learned to meet people. I got us on the news a couple of times. I learned to like get free workout classes from every gym in town for my group and help this lady who had started the group manage it for a couple of years, maybe while it was still a good fit. And then I ended up after that getting a job at Orange Theory Fitness when they first opened in town in gym membership sales. And I just like, I need a new job and I have this passion for fitness. So let me go work at Orange Theory Fitness. So I did that for a while. Absolutely loved every bit of it. But at that time, I had just turned 30 and I wasn't making a whole heck of a lot of money. But what I realized is that that's not an inexpensive gym. It was pretty expensive, especially in my, box of life and what I could afford. I couldn't believe that people paid that much to go to a gym. But here I was 40, 50, 60 pounds overweight. And I was selling this expensive gym membership to people left and right. And I felt like I was doing a pretty good job with the sales aspect. So I thought, I'm 30. Unless I want to go be a trainer or like make a career out of fitness, I really need to find a career. Like working front desk, selling gym memberships is not like a career path. And so I decided maybe I need to look into other sales jobs that I can earn a better living at. So I started looking around, and like I had said that I was a 4-time college dropout. I knew that I didn't want to go back to school. I had already been, I had student loan, I had about $40,000 in student loan debt at that time with no degree because I had to take out the max amount because that was helping me survive. And at this time I had already, shortly after I met you, I met my now husband. We got married. We had a third baby. Everything was great. But when we looked at going back to school, he would have been worth exponentially more with a master's degree than I would have been with just finishing a bachelor's degree. So it's like, if anybody's going to go to school, it shouldn't be me. It should be him. So I don't want to go back to school. It's not worth the investment, I felt. So I started looking around like, what can I do? And so a friend that I had met through this No Excuse Mom fitness group that I had met on Facebook, we still to this day have never met in person, but we were pretty good Facebook friends, I guess. She had told me she had just started working in the insurance world and said, you know what, I think you'd be really good at insurance. Why she said that, I don't know, but I was like, you know what, I think you're right. So I knew nothing about insurance at all. So I started interviewing. I interviewed with every company I could find. Oddly enough, none of them were the company State Farm that I ended up owning an agency with now. So I ended up taking a job, my first job in the insurance industry. And for that job, I had to get there's 4 insurance licenses. So before I could start working there, I had to get 4 insurance licenses. I was still working at the gym. So what I would do is I would work at the gym all day, and then I would go get my kids from daycare, take the kids to the daycare at like the big box gym at Princeton Club in town, and then spend 2 hours just sitting at the table studying for my tests. So I ended up passing all 4 of the insurance exams in a month. And then I went to go work for this company, and they gave you like 2 months of studying on the job while you were being paid to get your investment exams. And so I didn't know what the stock market was. I had no clue. I didn't even understand. So I went and I started studying for those. I failed, and I actually got terminated because I failed on one of the 2 exams I had to take. But I had a manager who really believed in me and was super kind and got an exception for me. And the company said if I passed on the 3rd time that they would hire me back. So I passed on the 3rd time. They hired me back. I started my career with that company, was there for about 2.5 years. Absolutely loved it. I was meant to do insurance. I always say I may not be the brightest insurance mind in the world, but I am the best at like having a conversation and making friends. And that's what it's about. I know my stuff. I'm a professional. I look out for my customers, but you got to get people to buy into you. And I really learned that sales and insurance sales particularly were just my jam. So through that experience, I kept meeting with every recruiter that reached out because I thought, if there's a better opportunity out there for me and my family, I'm gonna find it. And that's how I heard about State Farm, and then started my career with State Farm in December of 2017, working for another office. And then in March of 2020, which was a crazy time to start a business, but on March 1st, 2020, I opened the office to my own State Farm agency in Janesville, and it's been absolutely incredible.
So this is interesting. So you posted on Facebook, I don't remember what year it was, but you posted that you had a goal to own your own State Farm agency. Do you remember that post?
No. Maybe it was around that December 2017, because I went to State Farm working for an agent knowing that was the goal.
Yeah. So you posted this, and I know that because I watched you, from afar, not creepy way, but from afar on Facebook as you, I'll be creepy then, I guess. I'll own the creepiness. Like, I watched you as you worked towards owning your own State Farm. And when you posted that, it was like, you said, get people to buy into you. I'm bought into you. When you said, I'm going to do this, there was zero doubt in my mind that you wouldn't 100%, over 100% accomplish that goal. There is something in you that just gets it done. Like there's no doubt there, and there may be doubt when you're in it because shit gets hard. Yeah. But I just remember when you posted that and you shared it, that I knew 100% you would accomplish that goal. And you've shared with us throughout your story, there was setback after setback and hardship, gone to college 4 times, and you did it. Like, what is that inside of you that shows up in that way?
I don't know, I guess. And the older I've gotten, I'm just like, you just have to go after your dream, because we only get one chance to be alive that I know of. Maybe we get more chances, but none of us know that for sure. So this is my one chance to have a really great life. And if I'm not going to do it, nobody's going to do it for me. So I think that's where it comes from. And one of the most pivotal things that my husband said to me, so of course I'm working at a gym and I'm like, I'm going to be an insurance agent. And he was supportive, but he's like, okay, he didn't have any idea. But we were sitting at the first time at that first company I worked for, a big awards banquet. And I had only been there a few months, and we're sitting there, and my husband looked at me and he said, you know what? None of these guys here have anything that you don't have, or are smarter than you or better than you. You can totally do this. And I don't even think he remembers saying that, but that was the part where I was like, no shit, right? There is nobody in this room that has anything that I don't have. Elon Musk doesn't have anything I don't have, except for billions of dollars in a few companies. But I could get that too if I wanted to hard enough. So that's kind of, you have to do it for yourself. Nobody's going to do it for you. And this is the one shot you get. So you might as well try and, shoot for the moon. I think I sometimes, I've gotten some flack in my insurance career with State Farm, because when it comes time when we're talking to our management and, setting goals, my goal is always a ridiculous high, some would say unattainable goal. I know that that's probably not the best way to set goals, but it's man, I hope we fail. And then we're still going to be way ahead than if we had set a more reasonable goal. And I think that's what drives me.
Hell yeah. I mean, that's the thing, because you said, I hope we fail. So many people are afraid to fail, so they don't even try. And here you're saying, I set an unattainable goal by other standards, and I hope I fail, because if I fail, I have achieved way more than I otherwise would have.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not being afraid of that failure. Many people are afraid of that failure, and then what other people will think if they fail. How does that sit with you?
I don't know. I've thought that at sometimes, and it's even it's even hard now. I've made some choices recently in my life that I'm very, very close with my mom. She's always been a supporter of me, but has a very different like mindset on some things. And I still catch myself being like, oh, what is my mom going to say about that? And I'm like, who cares what my mom says about that? Because I know she's going to love me no matter what. And she's going to be impressed with me no matter what. I mean, like really seriously, I could not hit a single goal and she's still going to be just as enamored and proud of me. So why do I even care what anybody thinks, even my own mother, who's someone I respect and really care about what she thinks? It doesn't matter. And if I set a goal and I'm the first one to put my foot, I have a really big mouth and I'll say things that are just absolutely ridiculous, but I don't care. I had actually said there was a mentorship group I was a part of before I owned my agency. And in my interview to get into this mentorship group, it was with a bunch of very successful agents in the area. And I said, my goal is to be top 10 in the company. There are 19,000 agents in the company. And the only negative feedback I got about my interview was that was too high of a goal and I shouldn't set that. And I said to the person who gave me the feedback, I said, that's fine. Like they're still all invited to my top 10 party when we get there. Like they can think that. And I recently had the opportunity to speak to that same mentorship group with those same agents there. And I brought that up and I said, I'm real far from that top 10, but it's still on the radar. And I still remember that you said that about me, but you're all still invited to celebrate. Because you know what? I hope I get there, but if I fail and I end up like 50th best in the company, like who cares? Let's fail.
Hell yeah. So anybody listening, like go fail big. Like that is how you go forward, fail forward and try, because when you're so wrapped up in worrying about what other people may think of you or the judgments, it just keeps you stuck and then you don't go after anything. And then you have this sort of just like heaviness about you because you're not doing the things that are truly aligned with who you are. So just tapping into what your actual desires are and becoming okay with that and becoming okay with expressing it to other people and not giving like a flying fuck what others think.
Yeah. Because it doesn't matter. Whatever anybody else thinks, it does not matter. And if you fail and they all want to laugh at you for failing, like let them. Who cares? And if they're going to make you feel like shit about it, they're not your real friends. They're not. And even if they're your family, just because you're related to someone doesn't mean you have to listen to their BS.
Yeah. They're not your people. If anybody, like there's very few people in my world that I've encountered that. But like those people are not your people. And when you set out on whatever your journey is, your people will find you if you are living in alignment.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Katie, I love your story. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us about your story?
No, just like anything's possible. One of the things I was talking about with my husband the other day too, and my husband too, he has really, really come a long way in his career and really grown. And we are living a life right now that when we got married in 2012 is beyond my wildest dreams. We were talking about how 4 years ago, we saved up every penny we had to take the kids on a dream vacation. And that dream vacation was, we went to Ohio, to Sandusky, Ohio, to there's a big amusement park there. And we spent like 5 days there and we got a nice hotel. And I remember it was $2,000. And I was like, oh my, it like crushed me to spend $2,000 on this trip. And then last year we took our kids to 6 different countries, which is something beyond our wildest dreams. And that's something I always wanted to show my kids the world. And at that point, like taking the kids to Ohio was like showing them the world. My son actually went back to school that fall and told everyone he went to the ocean for which it was Lake Erie, but to him it was the ocean, and it felt like the ocean to me at that time because I was so proud of that trip. And just keep going, because I couldn't even have dreamed the things that have been possible for us through just our hard work and like refusal to cave and just live with the status quo. And I just can't even imagine how much better it'll get in the future, probably beyond my wildest dreams.
Oh, so beyond your wildest dreams. I mean, you've already proven that. So looking back, what is your proudest accomplishment?
I don't know. That's a really good question. I would probably say it's the agency and the things that we've done in the agency. We definitely, I haven't hit every goal that I've set for the agency, but we we hit some really, really big goals in 2021 that I sat with my team at the beginning of 2021. I'm like, hey guys, this is the goal for this year. And I didn't even believe it, but I pretended like I believed it, and like they bought it. And and then we hit that goal. So that was really great for me to just kind of prove to myself, like, fake it till you make it, like tell everyone that works for you that this is possible, and then they'll just believe it, make it happen. And so I'd say that's probably my most proudest, is that we've been able to, haven't hit all the goals I want to with my business. We still got a lot of work to do, but it's just, we've been able to do some things that I'm really proud of here.
Nice job. And, kind of expanding on the fake it till you make it. You said believe. And that's one of the things is like, if they believe it, like you showed up with it and then they bought into it. And once you start living that, becoming that belief, it almost goes beyond the fake it till you make it, because you're actually believing it, which means you're doing the actions that are required to meet that goal.
Yeah. And like everything's made up. Like, why are we buying into anything, like any kind of limits or self-limiting beliefs or other limiting beliefs that people put on you or tell you? Like, it's all made up. You can just make up your own reality and just go with it and pretend that it's going to happen, and it'll happen. Like, I'm a big believer. I've definitely embraced more of the woo-woo stuff in my own like personal development journey. And so you got to manifest it, and you have to believe it. And if you think hard enough that you can do it, you can.
I love
you too.
I love you. And I love I'm sitting here with my Dalmatian, Crystal, because it means fun and playful. So I'm sitting here holding it. So I'm full on woo-woo with you.
I love it. And if you would have told me you were woo-woo back when I first met you in like 2011, I would have been like, what a psychopath. But I'm really glad that I've embraced that a little bit, because it works.
It totally does. It totally does. So any message or piece of advice that you would like to share with anyone out there who may be on a similar journey to what you were on or are on?
I think going back to what you said, like, find your people. Like, they're out there. And I think that it's so easy now to find them. Like, just literally Google the things that you're looking for. You're going to find that community on Facebook or on TikTok or on Instagram. They're out there. And like and if you don't know who your people are that are going to support you, like, find them, try out different things, step outside your comfort zone. I would not be here today if I didn't step outside my comfort zone and walk into your class and just say, you know, what the hell, I'm going to do what my therapist told me and go to a gym with no clipboards. And
where's my clipboard?
Yeah, I didn't even know when I could be on the treadmill. It was really uncomfortable. But you just have to step outside your comfort zone, try something different. I think that's the biggest thing. I think a lot of people that don't achieve their dreams is because they're just too easy being comfortable, and good things don't happen from just being comfortable.
Thank you. All right. Lastly, share your number one life hack or tip that has helped you save time, energy, or resources.
I think focusing on yourself and your own sanity. I think that all the great things that came from that $100 gift that allowed me to take a class that gave me some time to myself to learn about myself and to grow. And even now I have to, take time to go do a workout or to get some business coaching or take some personal development classes or listening to podcasts, all of those things. That's what I think allows me to be as successful as I've been and to have the energy to do those things. I think the number one life tip is to just like take care of yourself and know when to step away and have that downtime, and to, take time for like your own personal development.
Invest in yourself. It pays you back.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone around you too. Like, my kids are better off. My husband's better off. Everyone's better off because I take that time to invest in myself.
Well, Katie, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
Can you share with everyone how they can get in touch with you?
All right. So definitely send me a Facebook request. It's Katie Myers. All of my stuff is public. I have a TikTok account, which is also Katie Myers. You can also reach me on KatieMyersJanesville.com is my website for my business. And yeah, Facebook is probably the easiest way to contact me, though. I'm on there a lot. Katie, and then Myers is Myers.
And I don't follow you on TikTok. I'm on TikTok. What kind of TikToker are you?
I don't know yet. I'm like just experimenting. I've tried to make some some recipes, and then I do a couple of things related to work. I just ordered a camera because I want to do videos of what my dog does in a day. I don't know. We'll figure that out.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to follow you.
All right. Thanks.
All right, Katie. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Spirit of a Badass is a Lit Path Studios podcast and is produced by Jamie Gale and Alecia Jacobson. Music by Shane Ivers. We'll be back with another inspiring interview. Until then, keep your spirits high and your energy badass.